Good afternoon. We are so glad that you are joining us virtually today for our AWBD Fall Seminar. You will get the best of the program last night that has been recorded, plus the benefit of some special guests that we will have on live at the end for Q&A. And our special guest today answering our questions will be Earl Lott, who is the TCEQ's relatively new director of the Office of Water, and Susanna Jones and Warren Weidler, who are both deputy chiefs at the Texas Division of Emergency Management, TETM, which is kind of a new acronym for us. So you'll kind of get used to, you'll hear a lot about TETM today. And so they will be back at the end to answer our questions that you may have after watching the video from last night. On your screen, there is a chat function and a Q&A function. And we need your questions in the Q&A box and keep your chat in the chat box. So we try to mix the two so we can quickly see what those questions are. So I just wanted to point out there are two different functions on your screen. So put your questions in Q&A, not in chat. And don't chat in the Q&A. So we will do that at the end after you've watched the video from last night. And so enjoy, and we will be back. Thank you.
I would now like to welcome to the stage our AWBD President, Ellen Hughes, who will also serve as tonight's host.
Thank you, Jerry. On behalf of my fellow trustees, the Advisory Council, and the membership, I'm pleased to welcome you to our 2021 Fall Dinner and Seminar. We have not experienced this particular event in 2 years, and I want to say that it feels good to be back. So let's get started with some introductions and a few housekeeping items, and then we're going to head on to our speakers and the reason we came. I am first going to ask that the Board of Trustees stand and be recognized as a group. Trustees, as I call your name, please give a small wave so we can find you in the audience. I am honored to serve with these dedicated individuals, and I hope you take the time to get to know your trustees better and let us know of your concerns that you may have. We certainly want to hear what you have to say. We have Executive Vice President. Y'all please stand. All our Linda, y'all stand. Jerry Homan, Executive Vice President. Mike Rozelle, First Vice President. I know he's recovering from surgery. He's not here. Tricia Frederick, Second Vice President. Dwayne Mason is our Treasurer. Rick Ellis, Secretary. Zach is our Central Trustee. Larry Goldberg is our Gulf Coast Trustee. Linda Backlund is our North Texas Trustee. And Bob Jarvis is our West Texas Trustee. Let's give them all a round of applause. Next, it is my privilege to recognize the AWBD Advisory Council. I call them our brain trust. This talented, respected group dedicates hours of experience to the association, responding to so many requests on behalf of AWBD. We are extremely grateful for their contributions. Would Advisory Council members in the audience please stand while we show our gratitude for all you do? Thank you. All right, I have 7 announcements to make. I'm sorry, 7. We're going to do 7 announcements and then we'll get started. Announcement 1, bylaws. We are so happy to announce that we are just a few votes away from meeting the magic number of 475 votes needed to make our bylaws election official. As a reminder, when we are having a bylaws election, we need 50% of the membership to vote. That's 475 members. And then after we get the 475, 2/3 have to vote yes. But if we don't make it to the 75, the whole election is voided, which is what happened last summer. So thank you to the 400, this number I just got, literally, Taylor just gave it to me. 442 voting member representatives who have voted already. Yes, we're excited. Got my fancy calculator out. We are only 33 votes away from having the magic number of 475, and voting is open until midwinter. Announcement 2, Midwinter Conference. Speaking of Midwinter Conference, it is in Moody Gardens in Galveston, January 28th and 29th, and registration is still open. No matter how you attend, in person or virtual, you can register at awbd.org before December 15th to avoid your late registration fees. If you plan to attend in person in Galveston, hotels are selling out, so please get your hotels. And again, virtual or in person. Announcement 3. Scattered among us tonight are some of our AWBD ambassadors, and they can be found in their black polos, their signature black polos. Yay, ambassadors. They have done a great job of introducing our new members to AWBD and walking alongside those new members as they figure out what this MUD director and AWBD stuff is all about. If you are involved with AWBD and would like to pay it forward by working with new directors and members, kind of as a mentor, please apply to be an AWBD ambassador. Applications are open until December 1st, and then of course we have training. And you may think, why do we need ambassadors? I don't know, this may not apply to everybody, but I think there's a lot of people in here who went to their first event or their first conference and they were completely overwhelmed. They felt alone, they didn't know anybody. And just becoming a new, especially if you're a brand new director, it can be very overwhelming, as Deborah nods her head. That was her story, and that's why she helped us champion this program. So think about giving back and being an ambassador. Announcement 4. Many of you saw the Danish panel at our annual conference and expressed that you would like to know more. Well, the Danes heard you. In fact, Danish Consul General Morten, I'm going to say it wrong. We talked about this. Ling, please wave. He's right here. He's with us tonight. And they would like to invite you to a limited audience free event on November 29th. You see all the details on the website. It is an all-day event the Monday after Thanksgiving. It is free. We only have 100 spots available, first come, first serve, and you can register at awbd.org. And it is going to be held at this, what's it called? The Dragonfly Park at Bridgeland is freaking amazing. I went and looked at that building today. That's beautiful. So it's going to be a beautiful location, a great program. It's free, limited seating. If you want to go, sign up. Announcement 5. We're over halfway there. Yesterday, everyone should have received via email our AWBD member survey. In the survey was a SurveyMonkey link that you click on to complete the survey. Please fill out the survey. If you don't recall seeing it, go back to yesterday's email. The information we collect about our membership is extremely useful to us in all areas of organizational planning, and we absolutely do not release this information to third-party people. This information goes nowhere, but it's so great to get a picture of what our membership looks like, and we haven't done this survey in 2 years. So please go find the email and click on the link and do the survey. All right, now we're ready. Tonight we are joined by the heads of 2 state agencies who are central to Texas and MUDs when disasters strike, and importantly, needed. Thank you, Director Toby Baker, TCEQ Executive Director, and Chief Nim Kidd, who is the Chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management. That's TETM. I've learned that one. So we all know TCEQ, but now we're going to learn TETM. No one in our industry should ever think they know everything. Life is a journey of learning, and we are honored that these 2 gentlemen have taken time from their schedules to share their insights with us tonight on the topic of emergency preparedness. Our first speaker will be TCEQ Executive Director Toby Baker. The TCEQ Executive Director is responsible for managing the agency's day-to-day operations. Prior to Baker's recent move to Executive Director, he served as a commissioner for TCEQ for 6 years. He, along with his 2 fellow full-time commissioners, established overall agency direction and policy and made final determinations on contested, permitted, and enforcement matters. Baker was a policy and budget advisor on energy, natural resources, and agricultural issues for the governor's office, where he was also the liaison between the office and members of the legislature, constituents, the Texas Railroad Commission, TCEQ, Texas Parks and Wildlife, Texas Department of Agriculture, and the Texas Animal Health Commission. Baker received a bachelor's degree from Texas A&M, where he was a member of the Corps of Cadets, and he also received a Master's of Public Service and Administration from the Texas A&M George Bush School of Government and Public Service. He is also a graduate of the National Outdoor Leadership School and the Governor's Executive Development Program at the University of Texas LBJ School of Public Affairs. So please help me in welcoming Director Baker.
Am I using this one? All right, you got me? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I've been, affiliated with TCEQ for almost 10 years now, and this is the first event that I've gotten to do with y'all. So, and it feels good coming out of COVID to actually come and see real faces, not look at you through a computer screen. I know some of you are looking at me through a computer screen, and I apologize. I'm much better looking in person. Anyway, no, really happy to be here with you tonight. And you guys are lucky. Usually if I'm in the same room as Chief Kidd, all hell is breaking loose. I know. Knock on wood. It is. We are typically only together when something horrific is happening somewhere in the state, and we're in the State Operations Center together. If note to you guys, if you get a text from Chief Kidd late at night, ignore it, because you never know what it's going to say. I'm kidding. Don't ignore it. You actually need to look at it. So thanks for having me here tonight. I'm going to move pretty quickly through this. I don't have a lot of time. So if there are outstanding questions or things that you'd like to discuss beyond tonight, please, I have an open door policy. Reach out. As y'all know, you've probably worked with my staff over the years, but you can reach out directly to me too, and I'll do what I can to help you out. I'm going to start off with talking about Winter Storm Uri, the path forward there. Then we're going to talk a little bit about, if we have time, our current relationship with the Environmental Protection Agency, which is changing daily, and then finish with maybe a quick bit about sunset, if I can do all that in 15 minutes. So here we go. In February, Winter Storm Uri impacted many of the state's 7,000 public water systems, causing widespread water outages or shortages, burst pipes and equipment failures, disrupting drinking water treatment processes. As a result, systems issued nearly 2,000 boil water notices, then impacting millions of Texans. I don't have to tell you guys this. You all were right in the middle of it, and I do have to tell you thank you for the work that you did to bring these systems back online as quickly as possible. I think superhero status is what many of our utilities really were in trying to fix the systems. But at the peak, nearly 40% of the 4,647 community public water systems issued a boil water notice during the storm event, and for a number of reasons: loss of power, damaged equipment, loss of pressure. As we saw it, the disaster sort of unfold, the interesting thing that we saw, the first domino obviously was the power issue, and I'll talk a little bit about the path forward there, but where I think the legislature's path forward might be lacking a little bit is that, as you guys know, when you get to the consumer side of the meter, if the pipes start breaking, if the body takes enough cuts, it's going to bleed out. It doesn't matter how much blood you put into that body, it's still going to bleed out, even if the heart's still working. So what I'm seeing is, we've got a lot of impetus on power generation. We don't have a lot of impetus on what do you do about all the line breaks, whereas even if you're putting power into the system, you can't keep the pressure up above the 20 psi required to not go on a boil water notice. So that is something that we noticed very quickly. So out of Winter Storm Uri, we sort of have two approaches that have emerged. The first is internal to Tceq. At our work session in March, the commissioners asked us to conduct an after-action review to evaluate the factors that impacted the public water systems across the state. We've engaged stakeholders from both the private and public sectors to discuss a variety of topics, including the evaluation of case studies and lessons learned that may offer insights to further enhance and integrate critical infrastructure resilience. The goal of this was to improve public health and safety through the development of response and recovery actions that mitigate risks posed by catastrophic hazardous events. So in April, the project team began collecting information to gain a deeper understanding of the challenges faced by you guys when you were dealing with Winter Storm Uri. Some of y'all probably saw we developed a survey, pretty in-depth survey that we sent out to 7,000 public water systems across the state of Texas, trying to dig in a little bit into what exactly happened. And we then took that survey and conducted 6 roundtable events across the state of Texas where we had a number of stakeholders come and sit at those tables with us. We had affected utilities, public water systems of all different sizes and types, associations, water districts, state and federal agencies, consultants and engineers, vendors, manufacturers, mutual aid agencies, you name it. We had sort of everybody at those roundtables. And, we focused on a number of things, but I will tell you, those roundtables were really eye-opening. We had some great conversations. I think we learned a lot, and we really appreciate, if you took part in those roundtables, really appreciated the candor and the honesty that you brought to those discussions. It's really going to be helpful for us as we move forward. We're also doing research on rules and regulations from other states relating to weatherization of facilities and current literature to identify requirements and practices that are used to enhance public water system resilience. So far, we've actually engaged with 15 other states to review their rules and seeing if there's any practices that they have that we could bring here that would be meaningful and useful for us. We are also conducting resiliency workshops. I don't know if any of y'all took part in the Public Drinking Water Conference this past August, but I know this was a topic there that was brought up, and we're going to continue to do resiliency events across the state of Texas through the fall. So once we get through all this, we'll put together a summary of findings, and then we'll put those findings together, and we'll take them first to the commission, present them to the commissioners as ideas, and then ultimately to the legislature. The idea behind this is trying to figure out what makes sense. This is a once-in-history weather event, and I think that was lost on some members of the public. I can tell you because I was in the room with the governor, with Chief Kidd, with the state meteorologist, and we were being told at the time, this has never happened before, ever. And so the question that I have in the going through this process is, if we're going to make recommendations back to the legislature to spend money or to require people to spend money, we want to make sure that we're spending money where it needs to be spent, that we're putting regulations in where regulations need to be put in, putting the Band-Aids over the cuts, not putting a full body cast on for a cut finger. So essentially, we do not want to go down the road of creating millions and millions of dollars of liability for y'all if we're never going to need it. And so that's what this exercise is about. The second path forward was rolled out by the legislature, and that's through Senate Bill 3. I'm sure that some of y'all are eagerly anticipating the rulemaking regarding Senate Bill 3. But Senate Bill 3, as you know, Harris County and Fort Bend counties already are required to have emergency preparedness plans and have backup power generation. It essentially takes the idea of what Harris County and Fort Bend County do right now, and it makes it statewide. And it puts some pretty tight time frames in place for that. The time frames are that the emergency preparedness plans have to be submitted to the agency by March 1st of 2022, and then they need to be implemented by July 1st, 2022. I want you to hear me. If it stresses you out, it is stressing us out too. This is going to be a lot of work. We have 17 additional new staff who are coming on to help with this, and I've had a number of conversations already about what this is going to look like going forward. The one thing I would ask of you, and this is where you can help me, we are hearing that we need flexibility, that the industry needs flexibility. We are hearing that it's going to be hard to meet some of these requirements. We are hearing that it's going to cost a lot. It could have an impact on our bond ratings. Those sort of things are great for us to hear as we go through the rulemaking. I can pass those on to your legislators, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that your legislators are going to listen to me about this much. They will listen to you if you go and have that conversation. So I am going to ask you and task you with, as you're going through this process, if it is unworkable or you get to a point where you cannot, you're at a point where you can't meet these deadlines, your legislator needs to hear about that. We are going to do everything we can to build as much flexibility into this process as we can and work with you on that, but we are also bound by the statute. So we are in a tough spot, and I'm going to go ahead and ask for some grace now as we go through this process together. That's where we are with Winter Storm Uri. I have 5 minutes left, so we're gonna keep going. I'll hit on sunset and then EPA. So we are currently going through the sunset process. If you're not familiar with the sunset process, every 12 years, every agency in the state of Texas goes to, it's almost an independent auditor inside of the state government, and they determine whether you still need to exist as an agency. Safe to say that they will probably determine that we need to exist, but that ends up going, it's a 2-year sort of audit, and then it ends up going through a bill through the legislature, and they could make all sorts of changes to the agency. And so we started that process now. Part of that is doing a self-evaluation report. Ours was only 700 pages long, all great stuff. I'm sure you've all read it. And in there, though, we highlighted some things that we find that we're suggesting Sunset to look at. Many of them are focused on water. So one is challenges for small water systems. Everything that goes with that. The authority that the agency has during droughts. We were just talking about this. When we have a priority call and we can't make decisions for public health and safety reasons, and we're following the strict priority doctrine, that means that I'll probably have to turn off cities and power plants at some point if the legislature doesn't step in there and help me fix that. Dam safety, something that we're looking at as well. As more and more development happens, we have more and more high hazard and significant hazard dams because we have a lot more people living below them. Water and wastewater operator shortages. I'm sure you guys know this better than I do, but we have a hard time finding folks, and I think you probably, especially for our small rural systems, my guess is y'all are having some of those same issues. How to improve emergency response efforts in local governments and local organizations. There's been a shift over time where TCEQ has almost had to become a first responder to many emergency events, and trying to help local governments understand that they really are the front line and the decision makers when it comes to dealing with those events. And then finally, last two, protecting water supplies and air quality along the border. As you know, our water team spends an incredible amount of time focusing on specifically water and air issues along the Rio Grande because of the relationship we have with Mexico and some of the challenges that we have there. And then finally, looking at means for electronic public participation, so virtual public meetings, allowing permits to be posted online, and electronic notice. So trying to find more efficiency, bring some of these processes into what I would call our current, or out of the dark ages. Anyway, so those are some of the issues that we self-evaluated. You will be probably contacted by our Sunset representative. They typically go out and will meet with associations just like this. It is your opportunity to speak into the agency, and if you believe there are statutory changes that need to be made, take full advantage of it. we are not viewing this as a negative for us. We're viewing this as a positive. When you operate inside a certain organization for a certain amount of time, sometimes you become blind to maybe the things that should be right in front of you. If this is your opportunity, so please engage when you hear from them. There will be public hearings that I will be sitting up there for a long time answering lots of questions, but you'll have an opportunity at those public meetings to also offer suggestions. So please engage in that process. Finally, I'm going to finish with just quickly our relationship with the Environmental Protection Agency. It's no secret that it doesn't matter who the president is in the United States, we will represent what we believe is best for Texans and what is in line with the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, Safe Drinking Water Act, and Texas law. So we have friction with every administration. It's nothing new. We fought with the Trump administration. We fought with President Obama's administration. We fought with the Bush administration. But I will tell you, I have some concerns about the communication style that we're seeing now with this administration. The very first thing they did was tell us, literally the first thing they did when they came in was tell us that we were using public water system grants incorrectly. We've been using those grants for 20 years, over 20 years, to ensure quality samples from small rural systems across the state of Texas. So we have one set of data that treats everyone the same, and it allows us to do this for small systems, which gives us a great view of how protective those systems are. They told us we can't use it for that anymore. It's left us now with somewhere between a $3 and $4 million hole because a new attorney came in and decided that after 20 years of them, and we were actually lauded for this in 2016 by the Inspector General at EPA, but now we're no longer able to use it for that. So that sort of set us off on the wrong foot, I would say. And then the second one I want to put on your radar is there's a petition to withdraw delegation for the NPDES program from the state of Texas back to EPA. I happen to think that it's fairly short-sighted. I think that our program and our process works pretty well. I would hope that you would agree with me on that, and I think that Augie's nodding his head yes, that's great. But I will tell you, I asked EPA, I was on a phone call, 3-hour phone call with them last week, and I asked, hey, what can you tell us about the petition? Are you going to do, there's an informal investigation, and I will tell you that what I got in front of all my staff and all of the Region 6 staff was, we're not going to talk about that. Never happened to me before. I thought, well, maybe it seems like it might be a good idea to talk about this, but they literally shut down the conversation and wouldn't let me bring it up. So that doesn't necessarily inspire an idea that we're going to be working closely together on some of these things. And then finally, I don't know if you've heard about it, there was a minor industrial discharge of wastewater from a desal plant. It's currently in the contested case process at the State Office of Administrative Hearings. The permit application was filed in 2018. Just this past month, we got a letter saying that the MOU we have in place that says they don't look at minor discharges, they're waiving that, and they are going to look at it. While it's outside of our jurisdiction, underneath SOA's jurisdiction. No answers as to how it fits into the process. No answers as to how the administrative process even fits up with, matches up with what their request is. It was out of the blue and shocking. And so if the idea, it's opened all sorts of questions about minor discharges. And if they're going to sort of play in this bucket, what does that mean for every other bucket that's covered by that MOU that's been in place for a number of years? So anyway, long story short, it's going great. We're working closely together. But I will tell you, we're working hard to build that relationship and try to build some of this communication so we can try to address some of these things before they get out the door and have the opportunity to educate our colleagues in Washington and in Dallas as we go forward. With that, thank you so much for having me tonight. I think I have time for...
Next speaker. Thank you very much, Director Baker. We appreciate it. Safe travels to the airport. It is now my pleasure to introduce the second half of our doubleheader, Chief Nim Kidd. Chief Kidd serves as the Chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, TETM. I just love saying TETM. Now that I know TETM, I'm excited about saying it. He is also chair of the Texas Emergency Management Council and is vice chancellor of the Texas A&M University System for Disaster and Emergency Services. That's right. He is responsible for the state's emergency preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation activities for all natural and human-caused disasters. Prior to serving with TETM, Chief Kidd was appointed to the San Antonio Fire Department, where he promoted from firefighter to fire engineer to lieutenant in charge of the San Antonio Fire Department Technical Rescue Team and captain of the San Antonio Fire Department Hazardous Materials Response Team, then to district fire chief. From 2004 to 2010, he served as emergency manager for the city of San Antonio, where he managed the city's response to over a dozen state and presidential disaster declarations. In 1997, Chief Kidd was one of the original members appointed to the Texas Task Force 1 Urban Search and Rescue Team, and in 2001, he was the Plan Section Chief that responded to the 9/11 attack on the World Trade Center. Chief Kidd currently serves as chair for the FEMA National Advisory Council. He holds a Master's of Public Administration from Texas State University, a bachelor's degree from Texas A&M University Commerce, and 2 associate's degrees. He is a certified emergency manager, a Texas Master Firefighter, and holds hazardous materials and emergency medical technician certifications. I feel very safe in his presence. Welcome, Chief Kidd.
Howdy.
Howdy.
You know, normally I have to do that 5 or 6 times. Y'all did that pretty good. I think we'll just stay with that. Y'all okay with that? And I know he's not here, but how about another round for Toby Baker? Y'all okay if I move around a little bit? I just had 3 cups of coffee. I'm not going to be able to sit still. I'm kidding. I had 4. I do want to thank Toby. Y'all may not know this, but Toby's a little bit of a unicorn in state government. Thank you. Thank you, Augie. The Division of Emergency Management, we're not regulators. We're operators. We don't regulate anyone. And I've known Toby for a very long time. And when I say he's a unicorn in state government, it's true. But Toby was also a unicorn in high school. Anybody know where the unicorn, where? Yeah, that's right. My wife and I, sitting here in the front row, live in New Braunfels now. So our kids are also unicorns, so we're not making fun of unicorns tonight, okay? Also want to take a minute to thank Augie. Augie, thank you not only for the remote, but for the invitation to help get me here tonight. It's going to be great having a few minutes to talk with you, not to you or at you, but I do want to have some conversation. Also, I saw a very old friend of mine walking in tonight. Where you at, Jeff? Jeff Braun. There he is, way back there by the light. Everybody, hey, wait. Hi, Jeff. Now, he doesn't look that old, but I've known him for a long time. Jeff, thank you. Jeff and I go way back, almost as far back as my wife and I go. We actually met because of disaster. Emily and I did. Our marriage was born of disaster. We say that a lot. After, in a drink a little while, we'll have a little bit of conversation about how that is and how it happened. Quick talk tonight. Everybody in the room be able to read?
Yes.
That means yes? Yes. Okay, all right. What do y'all think about this? The quest for efficiency is the killer of preparedness. How many of you want efficient government? Raise your hand. Come on, raise them high. Efficient government, we got to be efficient, right? How many of you want low cost at the grocery store? Raise your hand. Low cost at the gas pumps? Raise your hand. How do we get to lower cost? Less government, true statement. We got to be more efficient about what we do, right? But I'm going to challenge you for a minute because I need your help. We've got to start drawing real lines on the ground, and I don't mean in sand. Because the quest for efficiency is killing our level of preparedness in everything that we do. I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, how many of us really have 3 days worth of water at home for every member of our family? Raise your hand. About half of you. Okay, that's good. 50% is good. How many of you drove your own vehicle here tonight? Raise your hand. How many of you know how much gas you have in your vehicle? How many of you can be able to make it home without stopping at the gas station? How many of you have no idea how much gas you have in your vehicle right now? If we're being honest, I mean, come on, if we're being honest. If we're just being honest. Because the quest for efficiency is the killer of preparedness. And we need to figure out how much we're really going to stand for in supply. I mean, we all think milk comes from HEB. It's true, but there's something behind it. And we really need to be thinking about what we as providers need to do to make sure that we have the right amount of supply in our supply chain. The quest for efficiency is the killer of preparedness. I want to thank you. The last 2 years have been kind of rough on all of us. I know it's been rough on you too. Every one of our families has been personally impacted by the disasters this state and this nation has seen. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be in the job that you're doing, your regular job, the job that you're doing that brought you here, the work that you're doing on your boards, providing all of us what we need. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You probably don't hear that enough, and I won't be able to say it enough. But I hope you hear me, and I hope you believe the empathy and my sincereness here. Thank you. I've got a few slides to talk about some things. We're going to talk about URI. We're going to talk about the Energy Reliability Council. And as I get a little closer to the end of my presentation, I'm going to ask you to get your phones out. Because if COVID taught us one thing, if COVID did one thing, it saved the life of the QR code. Anybody disagree? I mean, heck, there's QR codes on every one of the tables right now. You never saw that before. You go to a restaurant, it's everywhere. So we've adopted. There's going to be some QR codes that I hope you will hold your phone up and take pictures of those QR codes, and they're live, and they'll take you to real links. But some key points from the 87th legislation. You know, they decided we're going to do our best not to do this again. Changes to the Energy Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT, and the Public Utility Commission, I think they're good. We've had several meetings on this already. I'm seeing positive improvement and better communication. I think we're going on the right track. Changes to the market itself. Last week, PUC put out some new rules. I think that's going to be better for all of us going forward. I really do. Changes to reduce the risk of future electric system disruptions. I think that's still going to be a challenge. And I think that's going to be a challenge for a lot of reasons. I mean, right now, most of us live in a home. How many of you do you know power coming into your house above ground or below ground? How many with you, if you're being honest, above ground, power coming into your neighborhood and your house above ground? When's the last time your trees were trimmed? I'm going to tell you, every straight line wind event we have in this state, and we have a bunch of them, I have power outages. Not because the utility company didn't generate enough or didn't make enough. It's because somebody along the way, whether it's on your property or somebody else's property, and you need to be talking to your electric companies about trimming the trees. We've got to have this conversation with them. And then the winter storm cost. I think there's going to be a ton of more lawsuits on that. I think that's just going to play out the way it is. I don't know that anybody has a good answer to it right now. How many of you have heard of the Texas Energy Reliability Council? Raise your hand. Anybody have any idea who the chair of that council is? Raise your hand. I won. I have no idea how, but we drew the short straw. Yes, the chief of the Division of Emergency Management under statute is now the chair of the Texas Energy Reliability Council. I'll come up with some reasons why I think they did that. But look right there. I don't know if y'all can read that. I know it's kind of small. Listen, the purpose of the Tceq is to ensure energy and electric industries in Texas meet high priority human needs and address critical infrastructure concerns. That should be a duh, but we've still got to do it, right? We've got to be better about this. We've got to bring in water. We've got to bring in electric. We've got to bring in gas. You know, the whole gas and electric cycle and system is confusing to a lot of people. I mean, y'all are smart, and I wish I could be in front here because I like being closer to y'all. I'm going to get out here a little bit. If I fall off the stage.
I can't do first aid.
No? Okay. All right, if we're being honest again, if we're being honest with each other, how many of you really know where your electricity comes from? Now, I know one person in my household knows who we pay for our electricity, and I'm not it. But to figure out which service, which provider, which generator of the electrons that move across all of the wires that make their way above and below ground into my house, I'm not sure I really know where it comes from. And I think that's something that we got to change. This goes back to the supply chain. I think we take for granted that every time we flip on the switch, the lights are going to come on. Every time we turn the faucet, good water is going to come out of it. And every time that I start my stove, the propane tank hopefully got filled while I was gone. The next big piece of that is enhanced coordination and communication in energy and electric industries. And I got to tell you, that's not an easy task. It's not an easy task, frankly, because of the regulators. Because so much regulation goes on those industries that they can't talk to themselves sometimes. And so having them in a room, you see down there at the bottom, it's 19 appointees by the governor, the public utility, and the railroad commissions, and then 6 state agencies. Director Baker is one of those that I always like having in the room with us because he's very practical. I mean, he's no nonsense, and I love the guy, I really do. And he is better looking in person. Don't y'all agree? Good group of people, already met twice. We're meeting multiple times a month in various factions every month until we get more information put together. We have a report that will go back to the legislature defined by law, but our goal is not to wait until the next legislative session to have actionable items. By the end of December, we will have actionable items in communication and in work group coordination and support, and how we will respond better to make sure the right mapping of what resource goes to what facility to generate what energy is out there so that we can take a look at it. And I'm excited about it, but I'm going to tell you, it's a ton of work. And it's something that probably should have been done a long time ago, but it wasn't. We're going to get it done now. I have some perspectives on emergency management. And again, being honest, how many of you live inside the city of Houston? Few, okay. How many of you live in the unincorporated area of Harris County? Oh, okay. So do y'all know the name of your emergency management directors for the city of Houston and Harris County? Do you know who they are? You do, you just don't. If I said Sylvester Turner, everybody knows Mayor Turner, right? Do you know that by state law, Mayor Turner is the emergency management director for the city of Houston? And that Judge Hidalgo, by law, is the emergency management director for the unincorporated part of Harris County? If we're being honest, how many people learned that today, just now, right now? Okay, I'm going to tell you, this is the way the state law has been set since 1975. It's not new. The Disaster Act of 1975 under the Texas Government Code sets how we, as a state, respond to and prepare for and prevent and recover from all disasters, all hazards. And I think a lot of people don't realize the reason you see the mayor, the judge, and the governors on TV is the law says they are in charge of disaster response. Now, those mayors and those judges, a lot of them, hire people that look like me or look like Jeff that have management or emergency response or emergency management backgrounds to be the emergency management coordinators for their jurisdictions. Those are the people that you usually see running the day-to-day operations. But the law says the mayor of a city and the judge of the unincorporated area of the county is the emergency management director for that community. One does not answer to the other in this part of the law. The only time a decision by a mayor can be challenged or overridden by the decision of a county judge is in the mandating of an evacuation. If the mayor says, I evacuate this part of the city, everybody from there up, our team, the governor's team, everybody, we support that mayor's decision. If a mayor doesn't think they need to be evacuated, doesn't want to evacuate, that county judge of that city can override that mayor's decision and mandate the evacuation. Guess what part of the state of Texas the governor has the authority to mandate the evacuation in? Absolutely none. Every evacuation decision is either the mayor or the county judge. And listen, I point that out to you because it's going to be important about the programs of the systems that you operate. Your support. Toby said it a little bit earlier. If you're in multiple cities and or city and county, you have multiple emergency management programs under the state of Texas law. And I need you to reach out to your emergency management coordinators, the people like me, and the very last slide of this is going to be a QR code that gets you to the Division of Emergency Management, and will help you find who your local coordinator is. But I need you to be talking with them because a lot of what we're going to do together can be solved with communication. Just knowing each other helps. Just being able to pick up the phone in time of need and say, I need this, can you send it, helps. And that's the thing that I hope that we get out of this tonight. So a little bit about perspectives in emergency management. I believe everything that I do is based in 4 buckets. Sometimes I get asked about the art of the possible. You think you can do that? I don't know, never been done before. That's usually followed by hold my beer and watch this, right? Why did all the guys laugh? Because you know y'all have done this before, right? Now, we're in the higher ed world, so we call that philosophical now, right? The art of the possible. I mean, think about it. Can we do it? We just talked about a storm that we thought would never happen. Is it possible? How do we know that we can respond to that or not? So in my world, this is one of the 4 lanes that I live in. The philosophy, the art of the possible. The next is one that I'm like really super comfortable in. It's my favorite lane. It's operational. It's fight fires, try to save lives. It's go stop bad people from doing bad things and hurting good people. We operate on a daily basis. Your first responders across this state, by the way, I think today is National First Responder Day, so you need to tell them thank you when we're all said and done. But we operate very, very well in this state. We do because we have to. I told you, disasters sometimes get political. Politicians are involved, right? Federal disaster declarations. When the president grants a declaration to a governor, when FEMA grants a declaration, all of that is based on dollars. I didn't say it was based on cents. I just said it was based on dollars. Y'all tracking with me? If you want to say amen, I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. It's based on dollars. What it's based on dollars is the last full census of every state in the nation times what a per capita indicator is. Prior to October of this year, we were based on the 2010 census, and the per capita indicator was $1.51 per person. They sent us a letter a couple of weeks ago, 2020 census is out. The per capita indicator went up to $1.63, which means we, and one of these slides I'm going to show you in a minute, I need your QR code reader out, we have to demonstrate $49.5 million of uninsured government and public sector loss before we're eligible for the next presidential disaster declaration. That's up over $7 million from when it was a couple of weeks ago. New Mexico, their threshold is $3.5 million. Oklahoma is 5.4, Arkansas 4.5, and Louisiana 7.5. So you add all of the states that touch us together, double them, and ours is still higher. So if you live on one of those border states, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, the same storm that blows through and takes out all the power can get a presidential disaster in one of those states, but it won't get it in Texas because we have too many people. Get your budgets ready, because there's going to be fewer federal dollars coming in from the disasters that we have, because we either have little bitty disasters or we have giant disasters. The number of in the mid-size, the $50 million disaster is kind of low, really. So I'm going to need your help here when we talk about this. But we live very well in the operational world. That's what we do. The next world is the political world. Well, should politics be involved in disaster? That was a question, the little thing with the end on it. Should politics be involved in disaster? I just told you it's run by politicians. How can you say no? Politics will always be involved in disaster. And I got to tell you, I've been the state director for 11 and a half years. Prior to that, I came from the city of San Antonio. The last mayor that appointed me was Julian Castro. So I've served for both parties. And like Toby, we do our best to take care of people regardless of party. But I got to tell you, I can tell when a disaster is real and whenever we're in the response phase, because politics is out the window. I can also tell you when we get into the recovery phase and things start to settle down, when we cross that threshold, because politics are right back front center. So, politics, we live in the political world. The last part of our strategy now is the scientific. I mean, we got a couple scientists in the room, I'm sure. The definition of science is several of us being able to recreate the same experiment and get the same outcome, right? We live in a scientific world. We in emergency management don't use science enough, and we don't use philosophy enough. So one of the things 2 sessions ago, the legislature pulled us out of the Department of Public Safety and put us as a standalone state agency inside the Texas A&M University system. Thank y'all. Y'all got to, come on now, get another cup of coffee. Y'all got to keep up. All right, how many of you know the number of agencies that are already in the Texas A&M University system? Thank you. It's 8 now. And you know them, you just didn't know they were in it. Anybody ever heard of the Texas Forest Service? Been part of the A&M University system since 1915. Tceq, the Engineering Extension Service, does a lot of our training for lines and crews and water and wastewater and water supply systems. Been part of the Texas A&M University system since the 1950s. TTI, Texas Transportation Institute. If you drove on a state or a federal highway here today, it's safer because TTI has been a member of the A&M system for a long, long time. So we're in higher ed now. I tell all my DPS friends, we just graduated and went off to college. One of the things that we're going to do is really take advantage of that, and we're going to build research into the Emergency Operations Center because we don't do it enough. Listen, I'm a fireman. I love pictures. I hate words. But we have people around us that love to read and love to write and love to research, and we're going to take advantage of them. Anybody know the number of coastal evacuation areas, focused study groups in the state of Texas right now? Anybody know the number? Anybody know the number? 5. Y'all are so awesome. Yeah, 5, all right? You're in one of 5 right now. But it's been a long time since we've actually hired TTI or anybody to study those evacuation routes. What's happened to Texas in the last 10 years? Almost 4.5 million people moved in, right? Most of them to Houston based on traffic coming in this afternoon. Just kidding, we used to live here, it's okay. But as the traffic moves in and the road construction happens, something happens to the society fabric as well. And how many of you live along the Gulf Coast? Would you raise your hand for me? A few of you. How many of you live 100 miles or more away from the Gulf Coast? Raise your hand. Okay. For those of us that are within the 100 miles of the Gulf Coast, there's 2 times of year for us. There's hurricane preparedness season and hurricane season. That's all. Just those 2. We want to bring in the researchers to help us better understand the decisions of why people will evacuate, why they will take the route that they take, and who they will listen to. And so we're going to keep working with the researchers across all of higher ed right now, really. We'll start with A&M, and bring them together and help us make better decisions using science. We're going to have a symposium coming up. You'll hear some things about it in the news, but really we're bringing the researchers from all over the A&M system. We'll have almost 200 people together talking about emergency management and how we can be smarter operators and how we're going to be able to prepare, respond, recover, and mitigate against disasters. All right, first QR code. Everybody ready? Get your phones out. The Domestic Preparedness Journal has been around in the post-9/11 world right at 20 years right now. And the guy that originally founded this, it's got 20,000+ subscribers. It's free to subscribe. When you grab that little QR code, it'll ask you if you want to register and take it. I'm going to ask you to go back and look at that journal. He gifted it to A&M. It is part of our system now, and we're going to keep growing this. I want you to write articles for this journal. Again, over 20,000 viewers and subscribers right now. We need to be in this together. I need what you need from us to be in everybody's front page. And we can do that by working together. It's not a pure academic review journal. It's a practical journal. So please take a look at that and read some of the stories. And really, I want to hear from you. I think you've probably got better ideas of how we can serve you than we'll ever come up with on our own. A little bit of future of the Division of Emergency Management. Before tonight, how many of you knew we existed? Raise your hand. All three of you. All right, great. Y'all are probably thinking, what in the heck is this guy doing up here talking to us? So we're going to keep growing the groups that we need. We're going to increase warehouse. We were the ones that the governor tasked to go find personal protective equipment from anywhere in the world that we could find it when there was a shortage during COVID. And so we've realized, because we were very efficient, we had no warehouses full of PPE because we didn't think we would ever need them. We were super efficient. Matter of fact, the entire nation, super efficient. The entire nation had 14 million N95 masks in the strategic national stockpile. 14 million. Big number. Big enough? No. Not only was it not big enough, it was all expired. But we were efficient. We didn't spend any money on stuff we weren't going to use. Today, the state of Texas has over 140 million masks in warehouses that we own and control. I don't know that that's the right number. I don't know if it's too big or too small, but we're going to work to find out. But I got enough right now that's 10 times what the nation had pre-COVID. We're going to have to work through this together. We can't let efficiency be the killer of preparedness. All right, no matter where you live, well, if it's outside of the state of Texas, don't take a look at this one. But if you live inside of the state of Texas, this is going to apply to you. This is called the ISTAT tool, the Individual State of Texas Damage Assessment Tool. And what we will use this for, we're using this, there's several of it that is live right now. If your home, not your business, your home is impacted by a disaster, a weather event, a fire, a tornado, a flood, this is the tool that you will use to report your damages back to your local government and the state of Texas. All right, Texas needs about 800 homes, major damage or destroyed from the same event, that are or underinsured before the federal government will give us an individual assistance declaration. This is the tool, just like most of your car insurance companies have right now, that if you have a little fender bender, you take a picture and report the damages out and they start working your claim. This is the tool that I need you to start using when disaster happens to tell me how much of your home is damaged. You can take pictures, you can upload the pictures, it gives you the information that you want to send to us so we can contact you, and when we hit our threshold, then FEMA will turn on individual assistance for the state of Texas, and you'll start receiving some federal help. Very important tool. We've just started using it. Really, COVID saved the QR code again. That's why we're using it. Next one is important for your businesses. This is the PSTAT tool. P stands for public assistance. If you're a city, a county, or a nonprofit operator, your damages are eligible under that $49.5 million threshold that I talked about. And listen, we as a state haven't been great at collecting these numbers when the disaster happens. Normally, we work with our 254 counties and our 1,216 cities and bring that information together to show how high our threshold is. But as our threshold has gotten higher, we need to be working with school districts. We need to be working with all of the utility districts. We need to be gathering that information and as near real time as possible in the amount of damages that you have so that we can demonstrate how big our disaster is to see if we hit our federal threshold. These are tools that are available to you now. Again, live links. Try to break it, beat it up, play with it as much as you can. And again, the last slide is going to be the State Operations Center QR code where you can send email or make telephone calls to find out your points of contact. ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. Every local government, city and county in Texas got money from the American Rescue Plan Act. The total was $10.5 billion. 5.25 of that is available right now and in their bank accounts. The other $5.25 billion will come within a year from now or when they spend 80% of their money and demonstrate that. All of our local governments in Texas got money directly to them around the state from the ARPA plan. And it was to support the COVID response, support public health. Really, I think the only one y'all really care about is the last bullet. Money's out there. All right.
All right.
Recording in progress.
That's what I was waiting on. Hello, everybody. This is Ellen Hughes, AWBD president, back again to get started on the virtual Q&A. Hope you enjoyed what you just watched. Before we start answering your virtual questions, I want to introduce you to the individuals who are on live with us right now to answer those questions. So you heard from Toby Baker and Chief Nim Kidd from last night, and we have representatives from those same agencies, but different people. So real quick, our first one is Earl Lott. He is the TCEQ Director of Water. Earl Lott began his career with TCEQ in 1995 as an engineering specialist in the Petroleum Storage Tank Division. Since that time, he went on to serve in several key management roles with the agency, including team leader of the agricultural team in the Water Quality Division, manager of the Water Utilities and District Section, and assistant deputy in the Office of Permitting, Registration, and Remediation. He served as director of the Waste Permits Division for over 12 years. Some of his core accomplishments with the agency include successfully representing the agency on several key bills before the legislature, leading the implementation of the federal standards for coal combustion residuals in Texas, spearheading efforts to streamline the permit processing timeframes, and successfully negotiating options with EPA to allow used tires to be used in fuel in cement kilns. That's very interesting. I did not know that was even a thing. So I learned something today. Thank you, Earl, for being here. I'm going to introduce the representatives now from TETM. And so MUDs rarely work with TETM, the Texas Division of Emergency Management. But as more MUDs take on more services and more disasters inevitably occur, this is likely to change. That's why we were thrilled to have Chief Kidd with us last night. And today we have Susanna Jones and Warren Country Weidler. I'm going to try to say that right. They're deputy chiefs at TETM. Susanna is a deputy chief at TETM with the responsibility for recovery and mitigation. She has been there at TETM since 2011. She has been actively involved in the state's response to 15 presidentially declared disasters, including Hurricane Harvey. Susanna came to TETM through the Texas A&M Engineering Extension Service, where she worked in 2 different divisions. She was involved in planning, training, exercises, and managed large projects in both Texas and across the U.S. And then we also have Warren Country Weidler. He was assigned to TETM as a deputy chief, and he by the Texas A&M Engineering Extension Service as the search and rescue coordinator for the state of Texas. He is a founding member of Texas Task Force 1 and serves as a task force leader. He has responded to the World Trade Center disaster in September of 2001, Space Shuttle Columbia incident, Hurricanes Katrina, Rita, and Ike, the Moore, Oklahoma tornado, and the West Fertilizer Plant explosion, among many others. During Hurricane Ike, Chief Weidler led the state search and rescue effort. So those are some amazing credentials. Thank you for being here to answer questions live. Earl, I'm going to let you start. If you just want to say a few things to add to what we just saw. Do you have anything to say before we start questions and answers, or?
Yes, thank you, Ellen, and good afternoon, everyone. My pleasure to be here joining you today for questions. And like everyone else, I look forward to visiting with you all in person soon. So we've been working from home for the past year and 3 months now, so I'm getting a little stir crazy. But happy to be here with you. Just to let you know, as Ellen explained, I've been with the agency for some time, and I've been in the Office of Water for about 1.5 years roughly right now. And, I'm really looking to, as Chief Nim was talking about streamlining and efficiencies, our processes is one thing that I'm really looking to streamline and implement some new tools. And I'll be talking to y'all at future meetings and whatnot with some of those ideas and plans, because, it's important that we get our things done efficiently as possible. I know there's a lot of resources riding on the decisions we make with our bond reviews and creation applications and whatnot. So looking forward to working with you all on those streamlining efforts.
Okay, and before we get, again, I'm going to give Deputy Chief Jones and Country a chance to say anything to add to what NIM Kid said last night. Is there anything you'd like to bring up before we get started?
No, just that from our side, I'll give Country a second. We are an all hazards preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation agency. We often, I hate to say that, but often run into things. Every disaster is different. The severe winter weather in February was catastrophic to all of us. But through these events, we learn, as Chief Kidd said, to better work for our jurisdictions, our partners, our non-traditional partners, and make things better. And that's what we're here to do. Country?
You're muted.
Sorry, I struggle with technology too. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I echo Chief Jones's comment. I actually came on as the deputy in the middle of the winter storm, and so that was my first good exercise there. But we're here to help, and I'll be glad to catch any questions. Thanks.
Okay, so here I think we've got a lot of questions on a few things about the presentation and slides being unreadable. Pretty sure Taylor's going to put those up on the website. So then the first real question is, how will we be able to access the ARPA funds as MUD directors? So I guess the question is, if you were just a MUD, how could you access the ARPA funds as a MUD, or is that an option?
I can probably take that one. All of the American Rescue Plan acts that funds that went to local jurisdictions literally went to local jurisdictions. There were two different sets of funds. So all the counties receive funds directly from the U.S. Treasury through that. And a lot of the large municipalities did as well. The state of Texas, through TDM, distributed funds that were completely guided, the rules, the processes, and everything guided by U.S. Treasury policies and processes. So really the place you'd need to go, even though the state of Texas was sort of a pass-through for that, all of those funds are controlled by your local jurisdictions, either the county level or the municipal level. So the place to start would, you can always go to your emergency management coordinator if you know who that is, but certainly going to the city or the county would be the right place to start.
Okay, our next question, somebody asked for the contact info for the speakers. I do know I was poking around both websites today, and I feel like somebody could find, is that accessible from the TCEQ or the TDM websites? Yes. So if somebody wants to reach out to specifically to Chief Kidd or Toby Baker, you can go to the TDM website. They're both excellent websites. I really kind of had a little bit too much fun on the TDM website today. I ended up watching videos and stuff. But yeah, those websites are up and you can find their contact information there. Next question, where can we find a guide to help us create solid emergency plans?
Your district, let's put an email out or go to the website, and but we have an emergency preparedness and a planning section here at TDM, and they can help you with that. And I'll defer to TCEQ, probably have some model ones also. So either one of us can help it, and just get an email to one of us, and we'll try to reach out and help you.
Okay, answer that one.
And I will just add to that, we are providing some training throughout the fall on preparing these emergency preparedness plans.
And a MUD director could go to that training?
Yes,
Oh,
definitely.
that's awesome.
Just reach out to me or Carrie Michelle, and we'll be happy to get you in touch.
Yeah, that's one thing I did find a lot of training opportunities on the websites. Good, more things about the slides. Please repeat the names of the 2 damage reporting apps and the URL from which they can be downloaded. So let's maybe talk a little bit more about, I think they mean the iStat and the PStat. Is that what it was? Yeah. I'll let you take that.
Country, if you have the link, you might be able to help me with that. On the iStat is basically individual reporting. So people who say I have damage to my roof from a storm or wind damage or flood damage, whatever that is, it's a tool where I can go to the website and report those individual damages to your homes. The PStat is for governments and infrastructure, electric cooperatives, special districts, things like that. And it is for infrastructure reporting. It's basically the same kind of tool. It looks different, but they're both for reporting damages. And that helps us cross thresholds we need to cross thresholds in order to be eligible for federal assistance. And Country, do you have that link? to
So it
share?
was in the slide deck, and if they'll send the slide deck out, they'll have the clear
Okay.
one. If not, you can go to the website.
And okay. And again, more questions about links and can we get their email addresses? What are your email? I mean, are they easy? Is it like first initial, last name at tceq.e? Won't you give us just say out your
Sure.
email addresses.
Sure. They're all first name dot last name
Got it.
at tdem.texas.gov.
Okay.
So, yeah, mine, it really is Country, COUNTRY Weidler, WEIDLER at tdem.texas, Texas spelled out TEXAS.gov.
Okay. And then Earl?
Yes, it's earl.lot at tceq.texas.gov.
Got it. Okay. This is a good question. Was kind of asked live last night. Is it efficiency that limited the state preparedness or mental models that limited thinking of probability? So while URI may not have happened, well, I think they're saying we never thought it would happen. Science told us it would. And I think this goes back to, the whole thing about, well, we never dreamed that we would have a URI. It's a once in a lifetime. And I think people are questioning, is it really a once in a lifetime? Do we need to consider it as not a once in a lifetime? Anyone want to take that? I guess I think so few people are worried that we're limiting our thinking.
From a TDEM perspective, we learn every time there's a disaster. So we've made some learning. You saw some of the results that came out, the Energy Reliability Council and things like that. And we'll try to put better procedures and training and responses in place. As for the timing and scope, I mean, again, I'll give you a perspective. There's 20 hurricanes a year, but you only care about the one that hits you. There's all these winter storms every year, but you care about the one that hits you.
Right.
So we need to prepare anyway. But I try not to worry about and can't really worry about whether it's the 1,000 lifetime or the 100, still a result for us.
Right. And I guess it's still this, you just, in general, we still have to be prepared for power going out, water going out. And well, I mean, you're still preparing for the same after effects, regardless of.
A lot of compound issues. Without transportation, you couldn't move fuel. Without fuel, you can't run the generator. So it's compounded. And so there are a lot of interconnectivity, basically. And we'll get better at trying to do that.
And just to add to that, I don't think we anticipated having a disaster lasting over a week.
Right.
And temperatures being the way they were for that length of time. And it was just one thing on top of another. And, even with the generators, some of them, were not prepared with the proper fuel additives. Diesel fuel gels up in the cold temperatures. So, you had all sorts of things.
Yeah. No one likes being the guinea pig, but we kind of were. We're like, wow, we never thought about that. Well, now we have. So, yeah. Honestly, I don't have any more. All the other questions deal with links and they want slides, and I don't see anything of substance. Any more questions from our audience? So I think you guys might be off the hook. I'm looking. No, it's all technical issues. So thanks for hopping on and answer our questions. I just have a few quick announcements. Remember, everybody, to complete your fall seminar survey. You're going to get a link to the survey is in the chat. Let me see. Let me look at the chat. That's Q&A. Yeah, so yes. So I think Taylor has put the link, yes, somewhere in the chat. It's a survey just to let us know how this whole event went. So we also need to register for Midwinter Conference. Try to grab your seat to the Danish Water Day on November 29th. Our Parks Virtual Committee meeting is a week from today, and it's going to be Professor Brown talking about how to improve water quality naturally. Don't forget to vote in the bylaws election that is ongoing until the winter conference in January. That's it. Thank you again to all of our live answerers today. We appreciate you guys jumping on your Friday afternoon. Everybody have a good weekend, and AWB members, we will see you in Galveston in January for our midwinter conference. And that is it. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Record.